this modern workforce, this next generation of talent, even before the pandemic, was looking to be understood, was looking to be heard, was looking for genuine relationships. And aren't those the ingredients?
They are.
To empathy?
Of course they are. Yeah.
And I think you found something incredible that's, that is the basis of the philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, if you turn philosophy into a marketing approach, which I think is exactly what you're doing, I think there's something really incredible for you, but incredible for a city and for commerce.
Yeah.
In this episode, I had the immense pleasure of sitting down and having a conversation with Michael Smith, CEO at the Charlotte Center City Partners. Michael is a visionary leader, a servant leader, and most of all, an empathetic leader. And I can't wait to share this conversation with you. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Michael.
My name is Michael Smith, and I'm the CEO of Charlotte Center City Partners. It's my pleasure to be here today for your podcast and spend time with you, Junior, on such an important topic of empathy and your philosophy and your approach to it.
Yeah.
Glad to be with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for making the time and giving us the space to have this important conversation. So when you are asked to introduce yourself at a dinner party, like how do you typically introduce yourself?
That's a good question. So I talk about my upbringing, talk about where I'm from, things I value. So it's I'm Michael Smith. I'm the father of 3 incredible kids. I've been married for 26 years. Kathleen, love of my life. I've got an incredible brother, raised very East Coast, New Jersey, and Greensboro. And I'm fortunate to get to do mission-based work for a living. I work with this incredible team, so that's who I am. That's how I introduce myself.
That's amazing. I've always found out that you get so much context and so much understanding, a deeper understanding about people from memories from their childhood. Like, is there a memory or a moment that you feel is significant enough that it shaped you into the man that you have become?
I don't know that it's one. Probably a series of things.
Yeah.
It's we moved a good bit as a family, and so that put my brother and I together in a way. He's 3 years younger, and he's one of the most incredible human beings I know. He is just the kindest person. He and my wife.
Yeah.
And we stuck together during our moves. It's also that my parents were young. They were 20 and 21.
Oh, wow.
Me. So my mom jokes that we grew up together. And just having young parents, it still is a blessing now. They were a huge role in raising our kids.
Yeah.
And then I had just a super tight family. I had, with uncles and aunts and cousins and grandparents. And by my parents being younger, I really knew my grandparents.
Oh, wow.
I knew some great grandparents. And, we were a tight clan.
Yeah. Yeah. So what kind of impact then do you see it have in the way you see the world, the way you raise your family, the relationship that you have with people, and even your role as a leader?
Yeah. So you take different things from different relationships with different people in your life. Yeah, my mom was a nurse and always kind of sees the whole room and sees the needs of others. I mean, it's really just a gift of hers. She was always like the nurse for the block. Somebody's always getting hurt. Always sports and fun when you're a kid. And then my dad, just incredible EQ. And just, caring and reading people and trying to advance things and thinking strategically. And then, also my wife, Kathleen, she grew up in a house where, her dad was an incredible leader for the city of Indianapolis.
Sure.
And she was raised on it. And so she's been an incredible teammate and just, forming the philosophy for, helping serve here and really trying to look at things from a service standpoint, service leadership, and making sure that we're attentive to our board and that we hire people that are really excited and believe that they can make a difference in this city that is lasting and values-based and significant.
Yeah, that's amazing. It seems, at least from the outside looking in, that so far you've had an amazing career. And I want to ask you about your career path, but I figured maybe a roundabout way to ask you about that path is to instead ask you to guide someone who's 20 years behind you and looks up to you and aspire to be in this dream job that you have today. Like what are the steps? What should that person be thinking about?
Yeah, let me throw one thing into
Please.
that. So one of the amazing blessings of my life has been the kindness of others. And I can't understate how important it is to have others committed to you and to your development. I've been amazed by it. I came into this role when I was 35 years old.
Wow.
And that box of unknown was so big. And it just took a ton of people, really leaning in and being committed to allowing me to develop and to serve in a successful way. So because of that, I've made this commitment that anybody who reaches out to me and is thinking about, hey, I'm trying to figure this city out. I'm trying to figure my career path out. I make time. And 15 minutes. All of us can make 15 minutes.
And I'm certainly the beneficiary of what you are talking about.
Well, I don't know about that because I wanted to sit down with you. So that was my interest as well. But because of that, I think every week I average sitting down with somebody to talk about what they're thinking about and try to help them make connection.
Yeah.
And trying to make the city a little smaller, a little friendlier, a little kinder, a little more human. But the core of the advice that I give my children and to anybody that is thinking about their journey is understand yourself deeply. And in doing so, identify what are the things that you love to do, what are the things that you're great at doing, and what are the things that the world needs. And if you can find the intersection of those three things, you'll never work a day in your life, and you'll be one of the best in the world.
Of course.
And it's, the work that we do here is economic development and city building. It is community development. And these are things that I didn't study in school and that I didn't really know. I studied business. MBA, my undergraduate was also in business, finance, marketing, business law. And I found these things and have just developed a deep love for them.
Yeah.
I thought I'd do this work for 5 years. And it's been a couple.
Wow. That's amazing advice. I think that's a very, very good framework for somebody who is trying to forge a path for themselves, to think about what they're good at, to think about what they love, and to think about what the world needs.
And don't compromise.
Oof. I think that's an important addition to that framework, because I think the framework in and of itself doesn't work without this piece.
Yeah.
Without this piece.
I think a lot of people settle. And, you get comfortable, and it takes risk.
It does. It takes risk. So I remember vividly when we met. I think it was after the Charlotte 2040 presentation for the vision for the city. And I introduced myself, and I
For Applebee.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I told you about, who I am, my work, and the agency. And as soon as I mentioned the empathy-led philosophy that informs the work that we do, your eyes just lit up. And I've been meaning to ask you, what is it about empathy-led that that idea that just resonated with you so deeply?
So I think you've captured lightning in a bottle in this idea. I think that it is such a, when you're in school, you're rewarded for understanding and seeing things that everyone else sees. When you get out into the world, you're rewarded for seeing things that others don't. And I think that's what you've captured with this idea, is this modern workforce, this next generation of talent, even before the pandemic, was looking to be understood, was looking to be heard, was looking for genuine relationships, and aren't those the ingredients?
They are.
To empathy?
Of course they are. Yeah.
And I think you found something incredible that's, that is the basis of philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, if you turn philosophy into a marketing approach, which I think is exactly what you're doing, I think there's something really incredible for you, but incredible for a city and for commerce.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. I mean, it was reaffirming then to just hear you and to listen to your feedback. It's been reaffirming in all the conversation that we have, and it's certainly reaffirming now with this kind, explanation for why you connected so deeply. So fundamentally, the purpose of this show is a tool for us to learn from organizations, leaders, about what it takes for one to become an empathetic leader, but also for one to build an empathetic organization. And there's no doubt in my mind, which is the reason you are sitting next to me today, that you are one of the most empathetic leaders that I've had the opportunity to talk to. So what does it take? What does it take to become an empathetic leader? What are the ingredients?
So I think everything begins with values. And I think people get to their values in different ways. I think faith can play a really important role in it. It's not how everybody gets to empathy.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know a lot of empathetic people that don't have a deep and abiding faith.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's core.
Yeah.
I think being committed to others and seeing in bigger pictures and understanding like your role in the universe.
Yeah.
And I know that sound
No, this is the right audience to use that kind of language. Absolutely. Yeah.
like that. I think in all of our development, when we're younger, it is about us.
Yeah.
And I think there's a day where it moves from I to we. And I think that's when you begin your journey of being an empathetic leader.
Yeah.
But it's got to be genuine.
Oh,
Just people see right through anything that's not. And I think it takes more effort to be an empathetic leader. Because you have to slow down. You have to listen harder. You have to read the room. You have to understand the complexities of other human beings. It's not what they're doing from 9 to 5. It's, where are they, are they or their spouse pregnant? Are their parents sick? What's going on with their children? And then how does that all balance into the objectives of running a business and allowing people to find fulfillment and development and what you're doing as a team?
Yeah. I mean, I literally just got goosebumps because I think what you capture is an idea that feels so intuitive to me, but yet I know it's so difficult to put in practice. And I don't really think that those who do not deploy enough empathy choose not to. I think there are so many competing forces that are pulling us from our capacity to deploy and have empathy for others. So like your words for me are so important. And one of the things that really drew me to you is that I am not always met with the kind of curiosity and understanding when I bring up the idea of empathy, especially to leaders, and a lot of the time male leaders, you know. So it was a little bit of a pleasant surprise for me. But for me, what I try to explain to those people is that I really think about this in very practical ways. And I think what you just explained, it's super practical. If all you care about is for your team to be more productive, then your ability to understand what your employees are going through, are they pregnant, is something going on, enables you to make them more productive if that's all you care about, right? If we even remove the expanded responsibility, which you added, right? An expanded responsibility, I'm not just responsible for making sure that they're as productive as possible. I'm also responsible for their fulfillment and their well-being. Yes. If you even remove that piece and only focus on productivity, you still need to deploy empathy to get the best out of them, yes. Right? And for me, that's the lens through which I look at it. And I think it's very practical, you know?
I couldn't agree.
Yeah. So you have this wonderful organization and tell us a little bit about the CCP. Like, what do you guys do?
Sure. So imagine how fortunate we are that we're part of an organization that's been around for 44 years.
Wow.
Existing for service. Okay, so our purpose is to create a center city that is vibrant and exciting and well-run and innovative in order to serve as the foundation for a thriving region. So it's not for itself. Again, it's in service to all 2.7 million people of this MSA because it's their center city. It's their downtown.
Yeah.
And so we lead with research and urban planning and urban design and community development and economic development. And we use tools like big event production and marketing and to invite people to understand and connect with the brand, but then also to find themselves in it.
Yeah. And for me, that's one of the things. The moment I kind of understood what you all do, the first question that came to mind is, I know how difficult it is to build an organization where people can see and hear themselves, regardless of what job, what function, or what part of the organization they belong to. Sure. And then I imagine and extrapolated that to a city. Like, how do you build a vibrant city where people have opportunity to succeed and thrive, while at the same time feel like it's a place where they have a sense of belonging, connection, and that they can see and recognize themselves in the way the city is being built and growing? How do we do that?
Man, that is such the core question. I mean, you've cut right to it. We think you begin with great vision planning process. Okay. So every 10 years, we do a new downtown plan, and we've got the 2040 Center City Vision Plan on the coffee table in front of us. And that's generally an 18-month process. It's a partnership between us, Mecklenburg County, and the city of Charlotte, and its planning staff there. We hire a third-party consultant, and the majority of those 18 months are listening. It's community sessions where we pull people in and we try to understand their values and their aspirations. And it's amazing how much our community changes every 10 years. So I've had the blessing of being a part of the creation of two of these, the 2020 Vision Plan and now the 2040. And it looks out 20 years. And, you know, this one is going to be celebrated for its focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, on the creation of complete places, and on our need for great transportation planning. The one before it was very different. And what that allows us to do is to create a lot of voices in forming a vision plan, professionals helping us take it into recommendations and policies and procedures, but also putting together a great vision that that takes it from the abstract to a rendering.
Yeah.
And then there's public policy, where it goes through an adoption process with the city of Charlotte. So that's the way we begin. And then that becomes our playbook for the next 10 years. So each year we try to scoop a program of work that's 12 months worth of work out of it. And we work with community leaders, we work with business executives, we work with elected officials and city and county staff, and try to fulfill those aspirations that we've heard and that we've adopted.
Yeah. There is so much to unpack there. I'm even having a hard time knowing where to start. But I think a good place to start is from that 18-month process of listening and paying attention and probing and being curious and inquisitive. Like, what is the thread? What is the thread that has emerged from all those conversations about where the city is? What are the hopes and the dreams, the fears, the aspirations of our people?
I think it's values.
Yeah.
I really think it is. And to get back to your thesis, I think you have to bring empathy to it all. Because we have to work hard to get some voices into the community conversation. Because if you just invite people, how are you inviting them? Is it through radio stations? Well, you better make sure that you translate some of it into Spanish. You better make sure you get to multicultural. If not everybody's going to have the same transportation means. So you better take that conversation to neighborhoods. So we went to regional libraries. And then you better have an understanding. And if you don't ask the right questions, you don't get the right input. You know,
Absolutely.
what you're talking to me. I mean, this conversation is being led by you. And when we have those kinds of public conversations, we have to struggle the same way.
Wow.
And sometimes you don't get it the first time. And the last time we did the 2040 plan, we were all the way to recommendations, and then the pandemic struck. And can you imagine if our community was stuck with a plan that was the last before the most shaping our generation? It would have been worthless almost. So then we revisited and we started listening all over again.
Wow.
And now you can't pull people together in the same room, so we're doing everything virtually. It was a wild journey, I have to tell you.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. That's amazing. I mean, and we talked about not compromising earlier in this conversation, and I can only imagine the competing forces, both within yourself as a leader, but with all the people under your charge of, we are so far in this process. We cannot, having committed the time, the resources, we cannot scrap and start again, you know? And like, how do you make that decision? How did that go? Because there's no way it was an easy decision to make.
Yeah, because you'll recall it's partnership of us, the city and the county, and there was financial, and there was time, there was process. But when we really laid it out and we remembered why we're doing this.
Yes.
And there you're back to, you can't compromise, because we would have produced a plan that would not have served our community. And the beauty of the folks on this team and our board of directors and all the leaders that contribute to this work is it's not a financial gain. I mean, it's a commitment to doing our work during our generation to make sure we're building upon the legacy we inherit.
Yeah.
And that's where you can't compromise. I mean, when I was early in this job, there was an initiative that we were taking on, and it was made clear to me that we were taking something on that was a career bet, so that if it failed, my tenure here would be very short. And it was a very important leader in the community who made this clear to me. And so I went home that night and I shared with Kathleen, my wife, that, this gauntlet was laid down. And how did she feel about that? And her comment was, if you're going to be in this role and you're going to serve in a way where you're trying to preserve your job rather than take the appropriate risks, then it's time to hand it off. Somebody else to do it. I love that. When your life partner gives you that kind of latitude to take risks, to innovate, to do the right thing. I mean, now that we took the governor off,
Yes. I mean, my wife is an incredible partner. So every time you've brought your wife and talked about the kind of partnership that you have had, it just hit close to home, because there's not a single major decision in my life. I mean, it's impossible if it's a true partnership, because it no longer only affects you. So any major decision has to be done in concert. And to have a partner that understands it and looks at the big picture and understands delayed gratification and understands risk is quite amazing. I want to come back to what you said earlier about, having to do the right thing. And for me, when leading conversations about in business and in marketing about empathy, like an empathy-led approach to business, of course, there are so many moving parts to it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a full concept. But I think fundamentally, it comes down to what you just said. What is the right thing to do for the people that we seek to serve, both internally and externally, right? That is a very simple proposition, but of course we know it's not an easy proposition. But really, fundamentally, that's all it is. And I think so much of the challenges and the struggles, both as leaders and as companies and brands, is that sometimes it's either lost on us that that's what should be our guiding principle, or we compromise because the decision to put the employee or the customer ahead of what I perceive to be our short-term gains. Because for me, long-term, if you've done the right thing for the people, it's always going to pay out. So it's really about that short-term perceived loss, right? So that's the crux of this thing, and that's why it just requires so much self-awareness, which is another ingredient that you talked about, courage, refusal to compromise on what is right. And I'm so happy to hear you echo all of these ideas. So CCP, we have this big partnership with, a lot of stakeholders. We have a vision plan that is 2040. I've been a part of huge vision plans, both in my previous role, but also in the agency right now. Enough to know that there is a massive gap between planning and envisioning and making sure that we take the appropriate action for those plans to come to life. How do you close that gap, and what is required for people to close the gap?
Yeah, so that is always the challenge and often the criticism that you receive when you're creating plans. I mean, you will hear in our community that we stack plans, 10 deep, and we do it too often. Yet, if you don't do that kind of process, I don't think you're as intentional as you can be. And when you do a vision plan the right way, it's almost less about what the plan says and who joined the journey and then committed to the vision in the end. And that's the answer, is the vision plan has already begun by the time the ink dries and it's being adopted. And you need agencies that are facilitators, expediters, conveners around different elements of the plan. And some are very physical and some are very political, some are social. And we try really hard. There's only 25 of us here. We're a relatively small shop. I mean, if you put our other agencies together, maybe we get to 50. So to serve a city with its needs for its center city, we have to pull so many others in, and we can't be an expert in all of them. So initiatives around homelessness. We just had a really important strategic plan adopted. We convened the experts. We convened the business community. We convened incredible partners in social service, the nonprofits, and in government. And we allowed them to be the experts.
Yeah.
We brought consultative services to it, and we bring that kind of approach to everything we work on. You know, sometimes it will be about the economic development potential of the North Tryon district. You know, there's 50 blocks there that are so ripe for tomorrow's vibrancy.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be the ones to do the development. We're not going to raise the capital. But we are going to help make connections. We're going to make sure that we've got zoning laws that are consistent with the vision planning by us working with the city and working with elected officials. So there's a different approach to each.
Yeah.
But it's amazing when you look at the 2020 vision plan, 90% of the recommendations of that plan are either complete or are still being worked on.
Wow.
So then we'll bring the same spirit for the next 10 years to the recommendations of the 2040 plan.
So you've been a part of 2 of these now. So I want to start with the 2020 plan. What stands out as your proudest accomplishment out of that plan?
There was incredible vibrancy and development and expansion of housing, office, hospitality, hotels. I mean, it was our most prolific decade of growth, period.
Wow.
And that made this place more vibrant. It was a great complement to the transit investments we've made as a community. I think it bent the curve on talent deciding to move to Charlotte. I think it bent the curve on companies deciding to come here to be a part of this community and to connect with the talent that we had attracted here.
Yeah.
But then the next question might be, what about that last decade were we most disappointed by?
Please.
And I just described our most prolific period of growth. And during that period, disparity grew.
Mm.
So we grossly underestimated the connection between the growth in our center city, the growth and opportunity. And what we found is you have to pair prosperity with a equal or more significant concentration on your values and the things that you want to invest in that are going to allow the community to grow together. So we tried to reflect that in the 2040 plan.
And what are some of the things that speak directly to trying to mitigate this a very important issue?
So there's one recommendation in the plan that still needs work. It still needs to be acted on politically, and that's the Center City Equity Fund.
Okay.
And what we're recommending is that our public bodies connect the growth in tax revenue to carving out a percentage of it, the new tax revenue, to invest into a fund, to put leaders on the investment committee of that fund, to make investments that connect to closing disparity gaps. So that could be affordable commercial space, that could be affordable housing, it could be scholarships for daycare, it could be connecting people that are transit dependent with better access to good jobs. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that it could do, but I think we bring the experts together with funds to allow those things to move together.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, and it's so important. You know, it brings me to this conversation around, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion within companies that I have all the time. You know, it's become, and rightly so, such a hot topic. And I think many leaders are scrambling to check that box. But for me, is if it's a box that we are checking and it's not a reflection of either your value or a deep understanding of how enriching diversity is to your organization, you will fail at this. You will fail at this. You have to either value it, or you have to understand that if I put people in a room that have different backgrounds and different way of seeing the world, that the richness of that conversation and the diversity of opinion and the different kinds of solution to the same problem,
the concepts, the innovation. Yes, yes, yes.
right? So again, very pragmatic. But I think the lens through which we look at it is through this either let's check the box, or is this favor or this humane thing that I'm doing. But if we even take it in a purely business concept, is the richness of those opinions, diversity, the kind of innovation and sideways connections that people make when a room is full of people from different backgrounds, that move companies forward, right? So
And didn't even tie that back to empathy,
of course.
because now you're being empathetic to all.
Of course. Yeah.
That's powerful.
It is. It is. So what in the 2040 plan gets you most excited?
So it is those three things.
Okay.
It's a complete transportation approach for our community, because we've got 100 to 130 people a day moving to our community. And if we don't get ahead of it, it's going to erode the quality of life that drew us all to Charlotte.
Wow.
It is the fact that our center city is creating more complete places.
What does that mean, complete places?
I think urban places are very hollow when they are single or just dual purposed. So like a government district, an entertainment district. No, the places you love in great urban places, it's a neighborhood and it's a commercial center, and there's great transportation, and it's intense mixed use. And you can live there in a way that it is auto free, because it's all within a walk of where you live. And that's becoming more than just in uptown. Our surrounding neighborhoods are becoming those complete places.
It's amazing.
And then the third would be that commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion that I mentioned. It's rich with, tons of recommendations that I think really can allow our community to continue to stay committed and to transform itself.
It's good. We are unfortunately coming to close, at least to the end of our time together. And I wanted to end on this question. One can argue that every great city is known for something, right? Like when you say New York City, there's something that comes to mind. Nashville. Like, do we have a thing? What's our thing?
Yeah. I think actually most great cities are not known for one thing.
Right, I like that.
I actually think that even cities that are such great examples, like Nashville with its connection to music, or Austin with live music, I think they're on their way to becoming more complete places. And I applaud the way Charlotte is developing. I think that it is a genuine, real place. It is. I love the quality of life that we offer. I love the fact that we have our big city amenities, and I love the aspirational nature of this place, where I feel like it is in our DNA that our greater days lie ahead, and that this is a place where people like you and I that are not from here can come here and help build the city.
I love that. I really love that. And I couldn't agree more. And I was secretly hoping that your answer will be some version of this. Because in marketing and in our conversation with clients, we try to advise them against being too what we call product-centric, right? That if you define yourself by the thing that you do, then it's difficult to outgrow that thing, although your organization inevitably will outgrow that thing. Wow. So you have to make it about people. You have to make it about values. Because if you are deciding that you are a sunglasses company, then it makes it very difficult for you to evolve and to grow and to shift and to expand outside of that. So I really, really love this idea of the city that is becoming, where you can come and alongside the city, you can become the best version of yourself. Michael, as expected, this was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for making the time. Yeah.